Luo Binghe startled and backed up a step, looking at the endless desolate land and sky. My dream realm actually looks like this? The dream realm, one's view of the world, reflected one's heart. Luo Binghe was so young, yet his mindscape wasn't filled with the red of flowers and the green of willows, but this bleak scenery. One couldn't help feeling sorrow. Shen Qingqiu pretended to ponder for a while. This is not an ordinary dream realm. I'm afraid that while you are unaware, someone has tampered with it. The waves of spiritual energy within this dream are strong and unstable, though this master was inadvertently pulled in by you. This disciple is useless and involved Shizun again. Luo Binghe's face was ashamed, but he considered this carefully. Exactly who would tamper with my dream realm? Shen Qingqiu was ready with an answer, fully enjoying the experience of divulging spoilers. No need to think too hard. The borders of this dream realm churned with demonic qi, and any entity who would use such crude techniques undoubtedly must be a demon, he said. Luo Binghe was unsurprised, and these words only deepened his hatred towards that race. The ways of the demons are truly poisonous. Shen Qingqiu wondered what sort of expression Luo Binghe would make in the future, thinking back on these words, once he learned of his own demonic heritage. Not necessarily poisonous, said Shen Qingqiu with a smile. Perhaps their intentions are the exact opposite, he added. Someone not in the know couldn't hope to comprehend words spoken from his omniscient perspective. Luo Binghe didn't understand. What did his master mean? But Shen Qingqiu's smile seemed profound, and the tail of his sentence was inflected lightly upward in a somewhat teasing tone. It was a sort of hint that made people's imaginations run wild. Luo Binghe stopped there, not daring to think about it further. In truth, Shen Qingqiu didn't intend to tease. He thought himself very straightforward. The one who tampered with Luo Binghe's dream realm was Sha Hualing. Though she did have some harmful intentions, her underlying motive was obvious. Naturally, she was driven by a young girl's secret yearning for love. Otherwise, she would have directed her aggressions towards others, not specifically at Luo Binghe. Demons were compelled to viciously bully the person they liked. Only if the object of their affections failed to die would the demon accept them, and if their target died, that meant they were useless and not worth nursing any lingering feelings for. This demon realm is rather complicated, said Shen Qingqiu. An ordinary nightmare technique couldn't trap me. I can dispel those with a mere thought, but this dream realm was truly meticulously constructed. I'm afraid that until the core of the illusion is destroyed, no one will be able to leave. Even Shizun will be trapped in this dream realm forever? Luo Binghe asked, anxious. Shen Qingqiu glanced at him. You will be too. Luo Binghe's mind jolted, his face going from red to white. It's all this disciple's fault. The situation is what it is, so there's no use decrying it, said Shen Qingqiu. We should devise a solution as soon as possible, dispel the barrier, and take our leave. Luo Binghe silently nodded and followed behind Shen Qingqiu as they headed towards the dream realm's border. Shen Qingqiu's face was smooth and unchanging, but his mind was a stormy sea. He was having an intense back and forth with the system. System, alert! You are now entering an important subplot scenario. The dream demon Menmo's barrier. During the subplot, please make sure to assist Luo Binghe in defeating Menmo's illusion. Otherwise, 1,000 satisfaction points will be deducted. There it is again, always deducting satisfaction points, and every time it was a heart attack-inducing number. After assiduously working for so long, Shen Qingqiu had only managed to scrounge a couple of satisfaction points here and there, while the system could remove 1,000 points in a single deduction. Was this really fair? As a system, you shouldn't be so inflexible. That wasn't the main point, though. The main point was this was the wrong script. Let us summarize this scenario's original setup. Luo Binghe was pushed into Menmo's sphere of influence, but before danger struck, he instinctively sought protection and pulled the person he trusted most into the barrier with him. Shen Qingqiu urgently called to the system. System, good system, esteemed system. There's obviously been a bug, right? In this section, Luo Binghe should be cozying up with a maiden, and the maiden supposed to be unraveling his complexes and using love to help him defeat his inner demons. How come I've been thrusted into this role? Where's the promised deep and emotional heart-to-heart where she's accepted into his harem? Where's the promise to little Shumei who refuses to leave him either in life or death? System replied, our self-inspection failed to find a bug. The system is running normally. No bug. That meant that in this scenario, Shen Qingqiu either had to carry out that role or die. This was the butterfly effect. Originally, the one who was pulled into Luo Binghe's nightmare was Ning Yingying. As Luo Binghe's closest and most trusted confidant on Qingjing Peak in the early story, this gate-crashing intimacy-building task was clearly her job. What was happening now? How had the hat of closest, most trusted confidant nonsensically landed on Shen Qingqiu's head? I would like to express that I am overwhelmed by this honor, but I don't at all want to accept this special distinction. Shizun, what's wrong? Luo Binghe asked in concern, seeing his unreadable expression. Shen Qingqiu promptly pulled himself together. Nothing's wrong, he said calmly. This master was thinking that demons who manipulate dream realms often target the weaknesses of the human heart. You must be vigilant and on your guard. Luo Binghe nodded, his expression firm. This disciple definitely won't allow Shifu to be dragged in again. This was miserable. Not only had Shen Qingqiu been thrusted into a dangerous situation, on top of that he had to assume the task of playing out the maiden's role. Shen Qingqiu absolutely didn't want to charge through a mountain of knives or sea of fire with the male lead to confront the terrifying Master Meng Mo while also blocking knives for him and even providing free psychological therapy. That said, complaining was useless. In the past, when he'd been faced with this kind of situation, his habit had been to cuss out airplanes shooting towards the sky. But honestly, Great Master Airplane was also innocent. He was a proper, upright stallion novel author, and he definitely wouldn't have wanted something like this to happen in his work. A healthy maiden being replaced by a scum villain? How disheartening. Ordinary readers would throw the book on the floor. The two of them kept walking, the clouds above and scenery around them like a kaleidoscope, sometimes lengthening and twisting, and at other times shattering into thousands of fragments, always erratic. The picture formed by the world they walked through was exceedingly eerie, like the people had been illustrated by Da Vinci while the backgrounds had been illustrated by Picasso. The style clash was extraordinarily intense. Suddenly, from within the dense layers of cloud emerged the buildings of a city. They stopped in their steps. Luo Binghe looked at Shen Qingqiu, waiting for his signal. Counter soldiers with arms and floods with earthen dams, Shen Qingqiu muttered to himself. We deal with whatever situation arises as appropriate. Forward. As they walked to the city gates, Luo Binghe raised his head, and his expression became slightly puzzled. Shen Qingqiu knew very well what he was thinking, that this city looked very familiar. Of course it was familiar. This was the city Luo Binghe had wandered while homeless during his childhood. The city gates naturally had no guards defending them, and slowly opened by themselves. Shen Qingqiu led him inside. This dream realm was frightening in its realism. When abstract, it was so abstract that it became blobs of color. When photorealistic, it was so photorealistic as to be indistinguishable from reality. The city's streets, markets, residents, vendor stalls, every single one was intricate enough to make your hair stand on end. Lit brightly with lamps, with people coming and going from a distance, it looked bustling and lively. But once Shen Qingqiu drew close, even though he had long prepared himself, his heart still almost escaped his ribcage. These quote-unquote people moving about were faceless. Every visage was a blurry mass, features unclear, and none of them made a sound. They didn't seem like living people at all, yet they still milled around, wandering back and forth. The entire city was deathly silent, its busyness entirely uncanny. Luo Binghe had never seen a scene like this. Shizun, he said, aghast, what are these things? Shen Qingqiu was panicking a little from terror, but he still took on the duty of being an expository encyclopedia. This is an illusionary city created via a nightmare. In the dream realm, one can create inanimate objects such as buildings and trees, but not living people. At most, they can be fashioned to this extent, speechless monsters that lack noses and faces. Even so, to be able to construct something on the scope of a city and to make it nearly like onto reality, I'm afraid it can only be one person. Luo Binghe was incredibly cooperative, and he humbly sought instruction. One person? 梦魔, Shen Qingqiu said. 梦魔, the dream demon, was a boss of this instance of a dream realm. 梦魔's true identity was that of a famously brilliant and accomplished elder among demons. Several hundred years ago, a bout of divine punishment had destroyed his physical body, but his powerful spirit had endured and damaged. From then on, he had become a parasite within others' dream realms, subsisting by absorbing their spiritual energy and vitality. At the same time, he was also one of the protagonist's teachers on his road to becoming a demon. Thus, we can give him a more direct and intimate nickname, the Portable Grandfather. Meng Mo was the one who, after Luo Binghe broke through the barrier, formulaically took a liking to the protagonist, formulaically taught him everything about his lost arts, and formulaically from that point forth, occasionally helped the male lead think up of plans for taking care of a small fry. Luo Binghe still wanted to ask a few more questions, but then his eyes involuntarily swept through the crowd and froze for a split second. Despite knowing the answer, Shen Qingqiu asked, "What's wrong?" "Faces," Luo Binghe blurted out. "Shizun, just now I think I saw some people with faces." Shen Qingqiu readily heeded his words and kept it concise. "We follow." They closely tailed the few figures who were incongruous with the people and style of surroundings, turning and twisting through the city until they finally stopped before an alley. In total, there were 5 people with faces. They appeared to be 5 youths, each one equipped with noses and features. The 4 taller figures surrounded one on the ground, and they cursed and yelled incessantly. Words like little mongrel and bastard poured from their mouths. They completely failed to notice the 2 people behind them. "It looks like they can't see us," said Luo Binghe. He looked at Shen Qingqiu as if to ask, "Didn't you say Meng Mo was incapable of creating people with complete features?" "Time for more angst!" Shen Qingqiu heaved a sigh in his heart. Meng Mo indeed cannot create people using nightmares, but he didn't create these individuals. Luo Binghe, look more closely at their faces, he said. Luo Binghe slowly turned his gaze toward them. Though his expression didn't change much, in a flash, a drop of cold sweat dripped down his forehead. "These are not illusions created by Meng Mo," said Shen Qingqiu. "They are projections of real people from your memories. Meng Mo only awakened these reflections from the memories sleeping within your mind," he said. But Luo Binghe could no longer hear him. He placed his hands on his temple, and it seemed as if his head was twitching. Shen Qingqiu knew that Luo Binghe's inner demons had already struck. Those 4 rowdy youths surrounded the child in the alley, who appeared to be only around 4 or 5 years old, as they punched and kicked him. That shabbily dressed child had covered his head with both arms and curled up on the ground, soundlessly taking the beating. It really made one worry that they would beat the young one to death. This little mongrel sure is blind, daring to enter our territory and snatch our food. Must be tired of living. Step on him. He's so pitiful, right? Hungry with nothing to eat, right? Beat him to death. He won't have to worry about that." Luo Binghe's head hurt like it was splitting open. That small, frail figure on the ground was his young self from the past. Through the disheveled hair and blood-stained face, 2 bright eyes like stars, like sharp swords lancing forward, met his gaze. Luo Binghe was completely unable to look away. "Pull yourself together," Shen Qingqiu said lowly. "It's only an illusion.